Welcome, everyone. This is episode 25 of the Transmaxing podcast. Today, we are talking about the history of transmaxing.
So this goes back several years. It started with me creating my own religion called Vintology, and then I was looking for ways to deal with excess males, and one idea I had for
Hey, I can hear you now.
Beautiful. And you sound great. How you doing?
Hey, doing good. Am I coming through? Am I clipping or anything? Or
No, you sound good.
oh, cool. Hey, thanks, man.
Yes.
How you doing today?
I'm doing pretty okay. Okay. I bought new sandals. Always good. Was well overdue. Old ones were very old. So yeah, with big successes like that, it's hard to say today could be anything but good. You emailed me
Oh
with,
yeah, I mean, you totally need. Is it really hot where you are right now? You live in like Tacoma or something, right?
I'm in
or like
Seattle.
or
Today was pretty nice. I mean, it's summer, so it's supposed to be warm. It's been a bit unseasonably warm, but I think that's just what we're meant to get used to now.
yeah. Unfortunately, I think that's how it's gonna be for a while.
Yeah, so you emailed me with a disagreement. I don't remember what it was about. Hit me up.
Oh yeah, well, I was watching your Sonvi modern day debate appearance. Do you remember that?
That was the lady with the PowerPoint, right?
Yeah, she had like the 5 common arguments or something.
Right.
Yeah, it was that one.
Yeah, people like that. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, like you really seem to disagree with her on a lot. And I was listening to your opening statement, and you really seem bought into this whole self ID view of gender and sex and all that, and how just identifying as a woman or identifying as a man makes you trans. I guess I just had some disagreements with that. And I kind of want to hear your thought process through that.
Yeah, certainly. Hit me up. What do you disagree with?
Well, I guess to kind of talk about the things we do agree with, I do believe that gender and sex are separate, but they are related, as you said in your opening statement.
Mm-hmm.
And when people are born, they're assigned to sex, they're assigned to gender at birth, right?
Yeah.
Can we both agree on that?
Right. I guess we extrapolate one based on the observable sex of a baby. Yeah.
Yeah, and usually it's like penis boy, vagina girl, and even like, I mean, would you agree with that?
Yeah, generally.
Yeah, and then like even with intersex people, they have indeterminate genitalia, but they are still assigned a gender.
Yeah,
at birth, right?
They're usually raised as one. In a lot of cases with intersex people who have indeterminate genitalia, the parents will make a kind of arbitrary decision, social and sometimes medical, as to like how to raise the kid. And sometimes that works out and sometimes it doesn't. It's kind of a complicated topic.
Oh yeah, I've seen like a documentary where like this guy, they thought he just had like kind of a misformed vagina, and they raised him as a girl, but then it turns out it was more like a misformed penis and testicle. So then he, I guess, not really transitioned back into being a man, but once he started going through puberty, they kind of realized he was a man.
Yeah.
So
playing with stakes. In the
even
future.
sometimes they're mess. Yeah, even we try our best, right?
Yeah. Well, I hope we do.
Hopefully. And so once we're assigned that gender at birth, we can either stick with that gender, making somebody cisgender, or we can transition into a transgender role.
Yes.
Right? Okay. So why do you think these people would want to transition into another role?
Well, I don't think the roles have clear and definite definitions to begin with. We're kind of relying on a set of arbitrary and socially determined taxonomies to describe what it means to be a guy or a girl. If you want to move out of that, I mean, that could be because you just don't think it aligns with your personality archetype. It could be because you think there's a dissonance between your gender identity, your preferred gender identity, and what your body has developed to be. Because people do associate, of course, femininity and womanhood with tits and pussy or whatever, and vice versa the other way around. Or you could do it just in a completely arbitrary fashion, like the rejection of the social label. Which is also totally fine. I don't think you need like a good reason to change your gender. If you do it, you do it, right?
Well, I don't know if it's like if you do it, you do it type of thing. Maybe like if you're more on the gender fluid side of things. But there would need to be something they would see in the other gender that they would want to transition to, right?
Well, it's kind of like any other label, right? A person referring to themselves
Mhm.
as a gamer or a goth or a sports fan. I don't think there's that much stake in the label.
Well, could you be a gamer if you don't play video games?
Yeah, theoretically, right? If a
Or like
person,
board games, or like let's say any type of games. Let's say you just read books.
yeah, if a person was
Like, could
really
you say
into
you're a gamer?
the culture of gaming, I guess, like they were really interested in its like aesthetics or history. Like there are those people who like fastidiously collect shoes despite not like really wearing any streetwear or like kicks or whatever. Yeah, it's pretty varied, you know. Or certainly like if we're looking for definitions like goth or whatever, I mean, we're getting so blurry that it's difficult to draw any kind of definite lines. I mean, right, find me a person with a definite like concrete line where you are or aren't goth, depending on which side of it you're on. It's not really possible.
But even though these outlines are blurry, doesn't mean that these outlines are not real, right?
I think they're real in the sense that people have very real understandings of them, but not in the sense that there's some kind of absolute definition you could refer to. Like if the idea of what a woman is in America is really inconsistent and will vary massively person to person, but there's still a kind of general social archetype that I think you could refer to in a constructed sense. But I don't know if you could ever say that's wrong. Like if you ask somebody like, what does it mean to be a woman? They're like, well, I think being a woman means being strong. You wouldn't be like, nah, no, that's a man thing, idiot. Like you can, even though we do typically
Yeah,
associate strength.
obviously you wouldn't think that, right? Like that'd be ridiculous.
Yeah, but that means it's
right?
non-falsifiable because even in an instance where you would imagine you would have like an exact contrary example, like, well, no, men are the ones who are considered strong. That's the typical role, but you still can't prove them wrong for saying it, right? So I don't think there is like a hardline definition to refer to.
No, I don't think there's a hard line definition either. That's why we can see people like Snooki from the Jersey Shore and someone like an actress like Sarah Paulson, and how they're two very different women, but they are both in fact women, right?
Yeah, I mean, last time I heard,
Yeah, and then
I
we
don't
can
know if their
also
minds have
see
changed.
how. What was that?
Oh, I said last I heard, I don't know if their minds have changed.
Oh, me neither. As far as I'm aware, they're both cisgender women, but we can also see a transgender woman is a lot like a woman, right?
Well, I don't know. I don't know what it means to be like a woman, to be honest.
Okay, then let's talk about like transgender men. Like a transgender man looks a lot more like a man than, let's say, a cisgender woman, right?
Yeah, if they dress the right way and, take hormones or sometimes, get work done, then they can certainly. I mean, there are plenty of trans women who pass, right, as cis women, and likewise for trans men. So there are, in an aesthetic sense, there are definitely people who cross that boundary pretty effectively, I'd say.
Yeah, so we see that there are people who want to transition to something, right?
Yeah, lots of people.
Yeah, so I think there is like a definition of being trans, and like a kind of like a definition. We all have this general idea of what being a man and a woman is.
Yeah, well, I
So
think
I
we have
kind of
a.
understand your argument in the zombie debate, where you're kind of saying like these things are just words and they don't mean anything and things like that.
Well, they don't mean
Because I know a
anything
lot of trans
inherently.
people who like these words mean a lot of things to them, right? Like
Right.
it's their whole life and self-perception, right?
Yeah, they don't mean anything inherently. They mean a lot individually.
Well,
to
no
people.
word means anything inherently, right?
Right. Well, that's the thing. I agree. This is why I hate like when people say, well, objectively a woman is this. Objectively, no word is anything. That's not how anything works. Language, we construct these definitions. But in this case, the definition is doubly constructed because not only do we decide like what the words mean, the term we're referring to is socially constructed too. So we're dealing with like two layers of ambiguity when it comes to whether or not anything could be said to be objective. When it comes to gender identity. I'm not saying that gender identity doesn't mean anything to people. I'm just saying it doesn't mean anything empirically. It doesn't mean anything in a way one could cross-reference or check or refer to. At the most you can get is intersubjective agreement, where you could say, okay, I don't know what it really means to be a woman, but I know that, for example, here in America, we have general traits we associate with it, like motherhood, being kind and patient, and that sort of thing. But that wouldn't be an objective marker, and you wouldn't find a woman who isn't kind or patient and go, well, by these definitions, then she's not a woman, because it's all arbitrary.
Yeah, like I said, there is no hard line of ways to be a woman. But like objectively, like a cisgender male could not objectively be a woman, right?
Well, I mean, those would be two contrary terms.
But a transgender woman could be a woman because she adheres more to the social characteristics we all tend to share in our culture, right? Since we do live in a society and interact with people on a daily basis, like
she
no man
would be
on
a
island,
woman,
right?
whether or not she did anything.
She would be.
Changed anything about her behavior. If you refer to the self-ID model, then all she would have to do is say she's a woman, and that would be enough for me. Obviously, if she wants to be perceived as a woman.
Like, why would that be enough if she has no desire to be a woman?
Well,
let's say it's a cisgender man who has no desire to be a transgender woman, but he just identifies as a woman.
Well, that would be the desire. If you identify as something, that's a conscious process that indicates a desire to identify as that thing. That would be the only marker I would need. I wouldn't really care if she wore, feminine clothes or anything like that. It wouldn't really relate to my, my categorization there. You could say that she's not feminine, right? Like, if there's a trans woman who says that she's a woman but does nothing to transition, you could fairly argue that she's not feminine and doesn't look or act womanly. But it wouldn't really matter much to whether or not she is one of those things, because for anything that such a woman would be that deviates from our expectations of what a woman is, there are cis women who are like that too.
But doesn't that feel a little transphobic that you're saying a cisgender man with no desire to transition into a woman would be just as valid as a transgender woman who put in the work to be, let's say, not even traditionally like a super hyper conservative woman, let's say like more like a redneck woman, so she could still be masculine, but she wants to project herself as a woman? Why would that be just as valid
because
as a cisgender man?
Well, if they're
who doesn't desire to transition?
Well, if they say that they identify as a woman, they're not a cisgender man. You mean a totally not transitioned trans woman, somebody who isn't doing any work to make themselves appear as or act as a woman. But the validity of the identifier woman, it's not a more than thing, right? Like, for instance, being tall and strong are masculine characteristics. They're associated with being a man. But I'm not more of a man than a guy who's shorter than me. Like, you could say I'm more masculine than them in that respect, but the whole what you identify as thing, it's modal. It's not really like a spectrum where one person can be literally more of a woman than another. They're both women. Maybe one's more feminine.
Wait, so like a cisgender man with no desire to transition, no dysphoria, like let's say Steven Crowder just says he's a woman as a joke. That's as valid to you as like Janet Mock, or like that's as valid to you as Laverne Cox or something? Like,
If you think a
that doesn't make any
person's
sense.
if you think a person's being insincere, like for instance, like I think there are lots of ways that we respect people when it comes to self ID, like their names. If a person wants to change their name, you know, they don't need to prove anything to me. I'll call them by the name they want. But if I'm in school and said, like, I'm in high school or whatever, and some guy goes up to me and like, hey, my new name is Shit Dicks, so you have to call me Shit Dicks. Like, I don't think that I'm having my belief on recognizing and respecting other people's names being challenged when I don't do that with them. You know, if a person's being transparently insincere, then like, okay, you can be rude to them on that basis. But if a person's being sincere and somebody's like, yeah, I'd like to, you know, I identify as a woman, but I'm not going to transition in any way, then yeah, that they would be as much of a woman as any other woman. All women are equally a woman. They're not equally feminine, of course, or they're not equally passable.
Yeah, they're not. Obviously, they're not equally feminine. I mean, they're cisgender women who are not feminine that we still consider women,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Or like butch lesbians who sometimes get accused of being trans women and kicked out of bathrooms.
Yeah. Yeah, so they're still the same gender, right? Even though they branch out in all these ways.
Yeah.
So, like, someone could transition to being a woman, like a butch woman, right? Like I said earlier.
Well, yeah, certainly. I mean, if they would
Yeah,
probably
so
be
why are they
considered
just as
butch,
valid
right?
as someone like Steven Crowder?
Well, I don't think they're just as valid. Steven Crowder does this bit
Well, he said
insincerely.
all women are women. He said to be a woman is just to identify as a woman, right?
Yeah, but as I said, if a person's being transparently insincere with that or any element of their identity, I don't feel I have to be, you know, considerate towards it. But if they're being sincere, then sure, yeah.
Okay, I guess I'm just totally lost on this whole. Because I said a cisgender man with no desire to transition.
The
So you think you
cisgender?
could be sincere about being a woman with no desire to be a woman
Well, wait. If so,
and not being a woman?
is the
Like, that's the
cisgender
same?
is the cisgender man saying they identify as a woman?
Yeah, they're saying I'm a woman.
Then they're not
Let's
a
say you're at a
cisgender.
bar and there's a cisgender man. He's like, I'm a woman.
Then they're not a cisgender man. Then they'd be a trans woman.
Yeah, but like, what if it was like a redneck bar in like Alabama or something? And like,
I mean, whatever.
he's like, oh, look at me, I'm a woman.
Okay.
Don't I sound as crazy as like a radical lefty?
Well,
Like, you would believe him?
if they said like I identify as a woman, or like, I mean, so are they like they're
That's
like
not what I'm saying. He said I am a woman.
just so they're not like coming out to me. They're just saying I am a woman.
No, they're just saying it.
Oh,
They're just saying I'm a woman.
well, I don't know their story. What if they're a trans woman who just hasn't had the ability to socially transition? They could be in the closet for all I
Well,
know.
if it's like I said, where I said they're a cisgender man with no desire to transition.
So what? So they're just saying I'm a woman, and they
They're just
identify.
saying I'm a woman.
That would mean they identify as a woman because they just said I'm a woman. Or are you
So when
suggesting
John
they're lying?
Travolta was in Hairspray and he was acting like a woman and being a woman, you believed he was actually a woman?
I'm afraid I didn't see Hairspray.
Well, let's say somebody in drag like RuPaul, he dresses up like a woman. He's like, "Oh, hey, girls."
But
So-
RuPaul doesn't claim to be a woman. RuPaul is doing a performance where femininity is the subject of the performance. RuPaul doesn't claim to be a woman.
Okay, how about when Lauren Southern got her gender changed to male on her license,
Oh, that'd
and
be
she said, "I'm literally a man."
a
like, that's
legal
literally-
designation. You know,
What was that?
well, that'd be a legal designation. There are people whose legal gender doesn't overlap with their actual.
So when a trans
identify
woman
gender.
transitions legally, that's not like really transitioning.
Well, what I consider to be whether or not you've crossed the threshold and become a woman or whatever is if you simply say